Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents the Gender Quest Workbook, a guide for teens and young adults exploring gender identity. By Rylan J. Testa, Ph.D., Deborah Coolhart, Ph.D., and Jamie Pita, M.A. Narrated by Beth Pfeifer. Publisher's Note: this audiobook includes bonus material. Please visit Tantor.com and type the Gender Quest Workbook into the search box. Follow the link to the book's page. Then, under the Supplemental Content section, please enter the access code EXPRESSION, and then click the Unlock button to access the bonus material. The code should be entered in all lowercase letters. All exercises referenced in this audiobook can be found in the bonus material. Publisher's Note: this publication is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is sold with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged in rendering psychological, financial, legal, or other professional services. If expert assistance or counseling is needed, the services of a competent professional should be sought. Forward. My first memory of gender and what felt comfortable for me took place when I was around 3 years old. It happened while I was standing outside, bare feet on the hot cement, next to a pool. I watched as my dad and brother were getting ready to jump into the clear blue water shirtless. Their only clothing was small swimming trunks. As their bodies disappeared under the splashing water, I reached down and pulled off the top part of my two-piece bathing suit. I knew I should be wearing swim trunks. I knew I should be just like them. At that age, I didn't know how girls' and boys' bodies were different, but as my collection of Superman gear continued to grow, including action figures, cups, beach towels, kites, and coloring books, I began to realize I wasn't like the other boys. My body was a girl's body, and what people expected of me because of this body was different than what I wanted for myself. When I was a teenager, I became really confused by all of the mixed messages I was getting both from the outside world and my internal self. Along with being confused by the fact that I didn't feel right in my gender, I was also extremely confused by whom I was attracted to. I dated and liked boys, but I also found that I had growing crushes on girls. I felt alone and scared, and I chose not to talk to anyone about my feelings. I kept everything bottled up inside, causing me to feel even more isolated from my family and friends. I started to open up and take small steps in exploring my gender when I was in college. It began with writing a few sentences about my feelings of being a boy in my private journal, and then moved to me drawing pictures of myself as a boy in my sketchbook. When I was 25 years old, the word transgender became my reality after finding a book about transgender men in a bookstore. My quiet thoughts and private drawings shifted to me opening up to my therapist and friends, propelling my transition from female to male. In looking back, I sometimes wonder what my life would have looked like if I had had the opportunity to think about gender when I was younger. So, here you are, listening to a workbook that is going to allow you to do just that. Welcome to this journey, your very own Gender Quest. As you will find, there is so much to explore about what makes you, you. This includes what about your gender makes you the person that you are, and what outside your gender defines your personality, interests, and self. This workbook is your private space to explore all of you, inside and out. You do not have to have all the answers going in, and you certainly do not need to have everything figured out when you are finished. This workbook can be revisited as many times as you need it. As a transgender man and professional speaker on gender, I have found that most people benefit from not trying to put themselves in one solidly formed box. Even as adults, we continue to learn more about who we are relating to both our gender and our other identities. Some parts of this workbook may be a little scary for you. Exploring who you are and finding that it is different from what your family, friends, or teachers think about who you are may make you feel confused or frightened. There are other emotions that may also come up, including anger, frustration, and sadness. I encourage you to sit with these feelings and try not to run away from them or let them defeat you. These feelings are normal and very important. As you go through your gender quest, know that you are strong, you are not alone, and there are people around you that love you. If you are being bullied, or if you are feeling alone, use this workbook to help you identify family, friends, teachers, or professionals that you can trust. Each step that you take in your life, the good, the average, and the bad, is worth it because each one teaches you a little more about what makes you unique, what makes you, you. Ryan K. Salins, M.A., transgender speaker, educator, and author. Author, Second Son, Transitioning Toward My Destiny, Love, and Life. Omaha, Nebraska. Introduction and outline. Congratulations! Because you had the interest and courage to listen to this book, you've gained immediate access to an exciting journey of self-discovery called a gender quest. What in the world is a gender quest, you might ask? Fair question. Let us tell you some more so you can decide if you would like to join us on this adventure. First, what is the point of a gender quest? We are taught many lessons from an early age about gender, what is masculine or feminine, and how we should think, feel, and act accordingly. Yet for many of us, what we are taught is not the whole story. Many of us feel that our genders aren't fully explained by these lessons. For some of us, different questions may arise like, what gender am I? What is gender anyway? What should I do if I feel my gender is different from what some other people think? What do I do if my gender doesn't match my body? The point of a gender quest is to help you answer these questions. Who is this book for? This book is designed for teens and young adults who want to explore their gender or the concept of gender. This includes people who have some questions about their gender identity, want to explore different ways to express their gender, feel pretty sure about their gender, but have questions about how to navigate their gender at home, school, work, or in relationships, are considering making changes in their life to fit their gender better, don't wish to make any changes at all, but are courageously up for an exciting gender journey. While it's not specifically designed for them, parts of this book might also be helpful for people who care about or are trying to better understand someone whose gender is different from how they usually think about gender. Who created this book? This book is written by a group of people who have either gone through their own gender quests or have helped others on their gender quests. We found these journeys to be fun, difficult, enlightening, and challenging. We wanted to see if we could pass on some of what we've found helpful to other people bravely embarking on their own gender journeys. What are the different parts of a gender quest? Everyone has their own path to understanding their gender. You will likely find some of the chapters of this book super helpful, and others not as important for you. For that reason, we'll go over the basics of the different chapters here so you can decide which parts you want to dive into. Chapter 1, Gender Identity, explores definitions of gender and helps you better understand how your sense of gender developed. Chapter 2, Gender Expression, looks at the wide diversity of genders worldwide and helps you think about the different ways you may choose to express your gender. Chapter 3, Family, explores how to navigate your gender in your family. Chapter 4, School and Work, discusses how to advocate for yourself, find support, and tackle some common gender-related challenges at school and work. Chapter 5, Friends and Other Peers, explores how you might communicate with friends, classmates, and coworkers about gender. Chapter 6, Dating and Sex, talks about sexual and romantic identities, dating, and sex. Chapter 7, Balancing Multiple Identities, explores how our multiple identities, ethnic, socioeconomic, religious, and so on, combine to form who we are as unique and whole people. Chapter 8, Dealing with the Hard Stuff, describes how to deal with any stressful challenges that come up on your gender quest. There is just so much cool stuff you can do on a gender quest, we couldn't fit it all in the book. So you can also go to this website, newharbinger.com/32974, to get a super useful list of resources, as well as a guide for clinicians and other support people working with you. Resources. Our list of resources offers further ways to connect with information, people, and support that may be helpful to you. Specific suggestions are provided related to online support, medical or social transition, health, people of color, therapists, crisis, fiction and nonfiction books, conferences, family members and allies, schools, religion and spirituality, and policy and legal issues. Supplemental Guide for Clinicians. This workbook is also designed to be used as a clinical resource for therapists and counselors working with individuals facing questions, conflict, or challenges related to gender identity or expression. Clinicians considering using this workbook or parts of it with any client will benefit from accessing this supplemental guide online. Finally, we want you to know that you don't have to go on a gender quest alone. Sometimes, adventures are even more fun with company. If you have a friend or anyone else you trust to listen to this book with you, great. If you have a therapist or counselor, or can find one who you trust to go along with you, wonderful. Otherwise, don't fret. We'll be by your side throughout your journey. Chapter 1, Gender Identity. What is gender anyway? To give a very complicated question a simple answer, gender is both 1, how you express masculinity, femininity, or for most people, some mix of the two, and 2, how your identity or sense of self relates to masculinity and femininity. Gender can be expressed in how you style your hair, what clothes you wear, how your voice sounds, or even through what hobbies you choose. In our view, there are about as many different gender identities as there are people. The options are infinite. It seems that even the people who appear most comfortable in their gender still have their own nuanced feeling for what it means to be them. And figuring that out, well, that's a gender quest. Gender is a confusing topic for most of us. Here are just a few of the questions the authors have answered over the years. How is gender different from sex? Has gender always been around? Will it always be around? If I move to Jupiter, will gender exist there? Do all animals have genders? How many genders are there? Can a person's gender change over time? Does your gender come from how you're raised, or is it from your genes or brain? What are some questions you have about gender? Answers to any of these questions aren't simple. Gender is actually a pretty complicated and interesting thing. Let's explore. The difference between gender and sex. In mainstream American culture, gender is often equated with sex. Even when people do know these two words mean different things, they may be confused about how. Sex. The word sex is tricky itself because it is used to describe two very different things. Sex can be used to talk about 1. Physical intimacy between people, what happens between the sheets, or to refer to 2. Whether someone is male, female, or intersex, what's between the legs. It is this second definition, relating to the words male, female, and intersex, that people often think of as being the same as gender, but guess what? It's not. Sex and gender are different things. More about sex. Many people think that all mammals, including humans, naturally come in one of two varieties, males or females. They also think it is simple to tell who goes in which category. Many kids are taught that the difference between males and females is whether or not the person has a penis or a vagina. When people get older and take some biology classes, they may think that the difference is in sex chromosomes, part of your genes. We are taught that males have the genes XY, whereas females have the genes XX. Notice that in both cases, whether we are talking about genitals or chromosomes, there are only two options, male or female. Few people are told the truth about sex, that nature doesn't fall neatly into these categories. In fact, many healthy babies are born with genitals that are not clearly male or female, intersex babies. Some are born with genes different from XY or XX, like XXY, for example. There are also people whose genes and genitals don't match as expected, like people with XY genes who have a vagina. Finally, even people who are not intersex often have some characteristics that we would consider unusual for their sex. When people grow up, their bodies produce hormones, and they develop secondary sex characteristics like facial and body hair, deepening voice, breasts, wider hips, or more muscle mass. We usually think about things like facial hair as being a male-only thing, and things like breasts as being a female-only thing. But actually, many people with penises develop some breast tissue, and many people with vaginas develop some facial hair. All perfectly natural, just not widely talked about. Try it out. Sex characteristics. Test your sex vision. Throughout the book, whenever you hear "try it out," it's a good idea to have a pen and paper handy. Find a time and place in your day when you can do some people watching. You can observe people walking by on the street, shopping, or playing outside. They shouldn't be people on television shows or movies, since these people are often selected and made up to look a certain way. Give yourself time to observe at least 15 real-life females and 15 real-life males and answer the following questions. Do you see any females who have some biological traits we usually recognize as male? Maybe bigger muscles on their arms, a deeper voice, thinner hips, some hairs on their face, or other examples? Feel free to write what you find. What about the males? Do they have any traits we usually categorize as female? Maybe some of them are shorter than most males. Do you notice any who don't have much hair on their bodies or face, who have a higher voice, wider hips, some breast tissue, or other examples? Did you notice yourself judging any of these people's traits as good, bad, pretty, handsome, or ugly? Most of us have been taught that having masculine traits is good if you are a man, but bad if you are a woman, and similarly that having feminine traits is good if you are a woman and bad if you are a man. In fact, after learning this lesson, some people go to great lengths, spending time and money to remove hair, add hair, remove breasts, get bigger breasts, gain muscle, lose weight, and so on, all to look more like what they are taught they are supposed to look like based on their sex. Do you know anyone who does these things? Or have you tried any of these things? Write any examples down. So, to sum it up, sex has to do with biology. From what you wrote down, you can probably see that sex doesn't fall into two neat categories. Instead, sex is the biology of how male, female, both, neither, or in between someone is. Gender. Gender is a very different thing from sex. Gender isn't what's between your legs, it's what's between your ears. In other words, gender is how you think and feel about yourself and how you behave or express yourself in the world. You cannot tell a person's gender from their biology. Instead of talking about whether someone is male or female, we most often use the words man or boy or women or girl when referring to someone's gender. Many people think that if someone has a penis, that means they must be a man or boy. This is not true. When a person is born with a penis, the doctors may shout, "It's a boy," but what they actually mean is that this person's sex is male. How do you know if you are a boy, a girl, or another gender? And how do you know what gender someone else is if you can't see it? Well, here's a puzzle for you to solve. If a girl went to a magician who mistakenly had her vagina turned into a penis, would she suddenly become a boy? No, she would still know she was a girl, just a girl with a penis. Another puzzle. If a boy lost a really big bet and had to dress and act like a girl for the rest of his life, would he become a girl? No, he would still be a boy, just a boy in a dress who was acting like a girl. As mentioned previously, gender has to do with both how you think and feel about yourself, called your gender identity, and how you behave or express yourself in the world, called gender expression. Gender identity. Because people have all sorts of thoughts and feelings about their genders, people have all sorts of gender identities. For example, a person may identify as a man, woman, transgender man, transgender woman, genderqueer, bigender, two-spirit, or something very unique and creative like a gender Prius, gender Oreo, or gender swirl. Here are how some of the more common gender identities are usually defined. Agender. Someone who identifies as having no gender. Androgynous. A person who has both masculine and feminine traits. This may also be used to refer to a person whose gender is hard to determine visually. Bigender. Some people use this word to describe themselves as switching gender in different contexts. One example is someone who is very masculine at their welding class, but loves to dress in heels and a skirt to go out to a club. Cisgender. This refers to someone whose gender identity and expression is a good match for their natal sex. They appear to fit cultural expectations of what a man or woman should look and act like. Some also say gender normative. Crossdresser. This refers to someone who, in specific situations, wears clothes, makeup, hairstyle, and so on that are usually reserved for another gender. While this identity is sometimes put under the transgender umbrella, often crossdressers do not identify as transgender. Some people crossdress as part of performance, drag queens and drag kings. The word transvestite, often used to describe a person who crossdresses, is considered offensive. Female to male, or FTM, or F2M, or trans man. This is a person who was assigned the sex female at birth and has transitioned socially, physically, or both to live as a man. Some refer to themselves as trans men, as it can sound a little less clinical. Gender diverse or gender expansive. Those who don't conform to the expectations that society has for their gender. Many prefer this over gender variant, which implies that those who don't identify with society's expectations are abnormal. Gender fluid. Some people identify as gender fluid to describe a sense that they are comfortable with a shifting or changing notion of their own gender. They do not feel that their gender identity is fixed. Gender nonconforming. This describes a person whose gender doesn't conform to societal expectations based on their natal sex, similar to gender diverse or gender expansive. Gender queer. Those who identify as gender queer feel that their primary sense of felt gender is neither male nor female, but somewhere in between. Male to female, or MTF, or M2F, or trans woman. This is a person who was assigned the sex male at birth and has transitioned socially, physically, or both to live as a woman. Some refer to themselves as trans women, as it can sound a little less clinical. Natal sex or natal gender. The sex or gender that was assigned to you at your birth. Some say birth sex or birth gender. This is preferable to biological sex because for many transgender people, quite a bit about their biology has changed over time through use of hormones, surgeries, or other aspects of transition. We also don't say genetic sex because very few of us have had our genetics tested to confirm our assumptions that we don't have a genetic variation. Pangender. Those who identify as pangender embrace all genders in their identity. They reject the notion that there are only two genders. Transfeminine. Those who were assigned male at birth but now identify as transgender and more strongly with the feminine end of the gender spectrum. Transgender. This is a term that can apply to all people for whom their current gender identity is different from what would be expected from them by society. This can include those who have chosen to physically or socially transition and those who have not. Remember, even though the term transgender is often used alongside the terms lesbian, gay, and bisexual, as in LGBT, transgender is a gender identity, not a sexual orientation. Transmasculine. Those who were assigned female at birth but now identify as transgender and more strongly with the masculine end of the gender spectrum. Two-spirit. This is an identity that is specific to those in indigenous North American cultures. Indigenous Americans belong to a diverse number of cultures, each of which has a different understanding of gender. However, this is a general term used by some Native Americans to describe those who have gendered appearances or identities other than male or female. Gender expression. Gender expression also can't be divided into two simple categories. Gender expression is how we present ourselves in the world, including how we carry ourselves, dress, and talk. In mainstream American culture, we tend to recognize certain behaviors and traits, such as wrestling and assertiveness, as masculine.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?